Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to those attending, also to our viewers watching live on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. This is a meeting of Property, Highways and Transport Select Committee. My name is Councillor Keith Burrows and I will be chairing this meeting. Details of the business to be considered today is shown on the agenda, copies of which are available in the room and also accessible on YouTube underneath the broadcast. Housekeeping: we're not expecting a fire drill, so if the fire alarm goes off, please follow officers to the fire exits and out of the building to designated meeting points. For those in the room, please switch any mobile devices to silent before the meeting starts, or switch them off. Resident feedback forms for those watching via YouTube. If so minded, you can complete one of our resident feedback forms. These can be found in the information section under the YouTube video. These forms are intended to help us as a council improve the way we run our meetings. So to start, can we please start apologies for absence and to report the presence of any substitute members?
Thank you. Apologies from Councillor Chapman. Apologies from Councillor Tuckwell with Councillor Cawthorne substituting.
Thank you. And as I always do, if we can go around the room please, so that those watching YouTube know who are actually in the room. As I've said, I'm Councillor Keith Burrows and I'm the chair of this meeting.
Good evening, I'm Councillor Davies.
Good evening, Councillor Cawthorne.
Good evening, I'm Lisa Mayo, School Travel and Road Safety Manager.
Good evening, I'm Danielle Stanley-Watts, School Travel and Road Safety Officer.
Good evening, Rod Smith, Head of Housing Management.
Good evening, Gary Pentecost, Director of Operational Assets.
Good evening, Councillor Kamalpreet Kaur.
Good evening, Councillor Garalek.
Good evening, Councillor Money. Thank you.
Good evening, Anisha Tedji, Democratic Services.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest in matters coming before this meeting? None declared. To receive the minutes of the previous meeting, I'll do what I usually do. I'll call each page. If you have any amendments, please raise your hand. Page 1, 2, 3, and 4. Are we happy that they're an accurate record of our previous meeting? Agreed? Thank you. Also to confirm that the items of business marked Part 1 will be considered in public. Items marked Part 2 will be considered in private. I can confirm that all items on today's agenda are marked as Part 1 and will all be considered in public. So we move straight on to agenda item 5, which is building safety update. And I believe we got Gary. Are you going to start? Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Councillors. This is a progress update on our building safety progress. This follows the extensive works programmes we've undertaken since the tragic Grenfell tragedy in June 17. The document is being derived into the four key elements of the building safety approach, which starts from development and proposes a planning stage to building, to the ongoing maintenance of those buildings and the ongoing tenancy management of those buildings. And that's why there's key strands in each section. So the appendix is the building safety strategy, which gives an update on where we are on each of those elements. Appendix B is our fire-door information pack for residents, which confirms, what they should do in the event to make sure that the fire doors are key elements to fire safety in our high-rise buildings, in any buildings really. Our high-rise evacuation strategy, the building safety case documents for each building, residents information packs, and we have got another document which is our summary of our management pack, which we can circulate after the meeting. A couple of highlights. A positive that our in-house repairs team undertakes linking back to the fire door information pack there. undertake and are all accredited now with TRADA for undertaking fire safety checks and repairs to all of our fire doors. The council has installed around 4,500 doors since the Grenfell tragedy, and the programme continues, as along with a lot of our other safety works programmes covering fire doors, lighting installation. This installation of sprinklers we've completed in 6 of our high-rise blocks, which is a good going in a fairly short time, and another 4 of our blocks are subject to redevelopment and review. Again, as you see, as you go through, a lot of our properties are receiving these high quality doors. There's some pictures in there what we had previously to what we've got now. We've got our signage programs, and interestingly, on the government's portal, there's a document. It's assessing the safety of our high-rise blocks, and all of our blocks are Tier 5, which is very low risk when you compare it to the measures applied by the government, and it follows a lot of work that we've completed over the last few years. I'm happy to answer any questions. As I say, the building safety strategy document is a live document, and we're constantly updating that. So there's sometimes there might be yellow targets that move quite quickly to green. And just to confirm, I'm the I can always forget these names there. I'm the responsible officer. There is a legal term. I can't think of it now. Principal council person. That's the one. It's been a long day. Principal council person, and Rod is the deputy. So if there's any issues ever, there's always one senior manager to lead on fire safety generally in the borough. And obviously we report to councillors, Councillor Bianco and Councillor Lavery, on those issues. Happy to take any questions. Information packs are all on going on our website, the borough's website. We've noticed literally today doing our checks, as you would expect, that 4 of our high-rise blocks do not appear to have been registered, and they are registered. I've got assurances we've paid the bill for a central government. They are, and we've got the team actively chasing to make sure that registration is updated to ensure that we don't set any hairs running with non-registration. So I'm happy to take any questions.
I think, Roger, you want to just come in briefly, don't you? I'll hand over to you. I'm sure you saw how many hands went up literally within seconds.
I did, and there's bound to be more. Good evening, everyone. Just quickly introduce myself. Rod Smith, Head of Housing Management. Gary's introduced a bit of a double act. It's probably easier to share with you that Gary looks after the assets side of fire safety. I look after the people side of fire safety. And that coming together of people and property really is a key theme in our approach to fire safety and compliance. And probably the best way to share with you, if I take you back to your school days, you'll probably remember the fire triangle. And the fire triangle was projected with oxygen, heat and fuel. And that's very much out of date now. If I share with you a new fire triangle, which is the built environment, what people bring into buildings and human behaviour, that is the current fire triangle. And it's that triangle that Gary and I work together jointly with our teams to prevent fires. That's the most important thing. And then to make sure in the unlikely event there is a problem, our buildings and our people are best placed to respond and respond appropriately. So the fire triangle is very much about having a compliant building, but also people being fire safe and fire aware of their responsibilities, and also to have a very proactive management response in relation to people's behaviours, which sometimes can work against us in the context of fire safety. So just a quick introduction of our double act and how people and property come together in the context of this work stream. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. I'll take Councillor Davies first, then Councillor Money, then Councillor Cawthorne, then Councillor Gaelic.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got 3 questions, but I'll do one and then come back round once everyone's gone. So I see in the report that it said there was a few residents, 7 properties that refused the sprinkler systems. What about the fire doors? Did you have many issues? Because I know I had a couple of residents who complained, and I couldn't see it in the report. I may have missed it. Do we have people challenge the fire doors?
We have, yes. I mean, with regard to sprinkler systems, the systems have been set to complete. So the installation's been completed right up to the entry point of the properties. So when there's a change of tenancy, leaseholders, then we can quite quickly add it to a program and install the sprinkler systems. So it's unfortunate. We have undertaken extensive consultation with our residents to say, the benefits are this, but we have had some, as you say, some refusals, and we've had a number of refusals as well around smoke and heat detectors, and where we're one of the only boroughs at the moment that's got an extensive program of replacing consumer units, the old fuse boards. They're all being upgraded to fire-rated fuse boards to prevent the source of flames, and the detectors give early notification of flames, of fires and smoke. Smoke's the killer. With regard to fire doors, the council's was LBH was leading edge, in my opinion, giving not only leaseholders but also a free door to ensure safety of our buildings. So we have had a number of refusals, but we are enforcing on the fire doors, because the fire doors are one of the key protection measures. It's all about compartmentalisation. The doors compartmentalise a fire in boxes or the flats that are built to contain a fire. So as long as there's no penetrations through the fabric and the door works, the fire's contained. And then when you have your evacuation strategy, the 30-minute doors move into corridors with 30-minute protection into means of escape that are also protected with sprinkler systems. So generally it is disappointing, but it's not the end of the world with regards to the safety of our buildings.
If I could just add to that as well, during the very early days, we sought authority and obtained authority not to recharge the cost of the fire doors as well. So as a landlord, in terms of our long leaseholders, we have the ability to go through a statutory consultation exercise and ultimately recharge the cost of those doors. To facilitate speed and installation and limit the number of refusals, these are a very small percentage given the thousands of doors we've installed. That approach really has enabled us to accelerate the programme. Yes, we've had to swallow the cost, but ultimately, as a landlord, we're responsible for the building as a whole, and the principle of compartmentalisation is, boxes within boxes. So if we do have gaps, then obviously it's a weak link in the chain. It's a weak link in that building's compliance. So our approach not to recharge leaseholders with these key aspects of fire safety has enabled Gary's teams to accelerate the programmes.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Can I come back on that?
Based on what
you so what was the reason for the refusals? Is it a case of they didn't like it? I know one resident wasn't happy that the closer was on the outside of his door rather than inside. What's the main reason for the refusals?
Yes, some people we have to go down, some of our residents, we have to go down an approving process. We will only accept or install fully third-party accredited fire doors that are fully tested and certified. Unfortunately, some of the doors that tenants may have fitted themselves are not.
Yeah.
Some of the doors that have been fitted by other areas are not. The unfortunate bit, when we have to install the closer on the outside of the outside of the door, that's just due to the size of the opening, and that's the real limited a number of occasions where the door, if we put a closer on the inside of the door, it will restrict access to below, I think it's about 750 mil. Whereas you put the door opening on the outside, you get the full opening width. So that's the main issue. It's just a technical resolution to a problem. We've had none of them have been tampered with. We've had no reports of, or as far as I'm aware, someone will prove me wrong, but we've had no issues of being vandalised, removed, damaged. Because once the door closes, they're near enough contained within with the door itself in the closer.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, guys.
Councillor Money.
Thank you, Chairman. My question was also around on page 8. We have 7 properties that have refused the sprinkler system. What was the reason for that? And you're taking tenancy, are taking legal advice and stuff. What's the reason for refusal?
It's very strange actually. They've almost, some of our tenants have almost forgot the safety aspects of this, and I think some of them believe that when the sprinkler systems go off, the whole building will be flooded. It won't, and I think there's a bit of a perception. It's the old Tower Inferno type approach where all sprinklers go off at once. They don't. They go off limited to a maximum of 3, and once they do activate, which is normally in a flat or a property, that puts the fire out. To answer the question, it's strange. Sometimes people just will not have it because of the cosmetics inside the property, because what we have to have is that our designs are pipework comes into the buildings boxed in. There's sprinkler heads that don't go off until the appropriate temperatures are reached, and then we've tried to minimise our runs into corridors, into bedrooms, and into living spaces to minimise the impact. So we try to keep it in the passageways and minimise any entrance into living areas or bedroom areas. But unfortunately, we're still getting some that are refusing.
A follow-up on that. Is it anything possibly to do with insurance, and if they go off by accident, and who covers the cost of the damaged equipment? Or
it's covered by their own home insurance. In the very unlikely event of these going off by mistake, they won't go off by mistake. They will only activate on a fire at the right temperatures. Again, these are, it's almost if they do ever activate, it's a safety. It's saving their lives, with the sake of losing a bit of furniture. That's the view. It is disappointing at 7, but hopefully at some stage they will come back on board and we can get them done.
Just a follow up, if I may. Very impressive with everything that you've done so far, and changing 4,869 doors since 2017 is quite impressive. You're now working through the medium and low rise stock. With the Building Safety Act, is that also a requirement to do all fire doors in all?
It's a good practice and measure. Within scope are all the high-rise buildings over 18 metres. We've also applied the same safety measures to our sheltered housing accommodation and the properties with means of escape that are contained. So there's only one means of escape in some of our low and medium-rise buildings. So it's all about prevention and enabling tenants or residents to get out of their flats safely and contain the fire. So we are progressing with all the buildings, with all our properties. We've got approximately, I think with leaseholders, about 13,000. As I say, we're nearly up to 5,000 installations so far.
Thank you. Councillor Cawthorne.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions. I'm just conscious looking at you, Gary and Rod, sitting there. We've sat together many times in my cabinet years discussing this very issue, and of course, it's a very live issue, and of course it didn't start with Grenfell. We had the Cardinal House before that in Southwark, I think it was, and other places. And every fresh tragedy, every fresh incident brings about a review, new requirements, and all the rest of it. So clearly we've got to keep moving on this stuff. I suppose two questions for me really. One relates to Appendix A, which is the building safety strategy. Now I saw a reference there to government figures back in the summer last year, suggesting 29 existing high-rise buildings in Hillingdon may fall within the existing regime. There's no further reference to it, but I see there's a table on page 9 with 10 such blocks. Am I conflating wrong things? Have these 29 blocks gone away, or?
No, what they are, the 10 relates to LBH-owned buildings, and the 29 relate to other buildings that have been assessed as potential risk. We do need to update. The latest figures are now remediation has been undertaken on a number of those buildings. I'm just waiting for private sector housing to confirm to us, and I think there's an outstanding of 3 buildings that I'll stand to be corrected, and I will update after the meeting. But private sector housing are working with the private sector providers to make sure they give us the updates, then we can update our overall strategy document.
But yeah, if I can just clarify, Chairman, so for the avoidance of any doubt, in terms of the Council's own stock, we have 10 in-scope buildings under the Building Safety Act. So these are our high-rise blocks, over 18 metres, yeah, and that's the focus of this document, really, yeah. And we're very satisfied with our levels of compliance on those 10, yeah.
Thank you. That brings me on to my second point, if I may, Chairman. Your point about us being sort of where we need to be, this is always something that's very difficult to nail down because things change so much in terms of what is required. And again, looking at the action plan, there's a fair amount of amber there. Fair enough, we are where we are, but I'm just interested in whether there is a sort of a national view in terms of where we need to be in regards to this stuff, and how we compare with that particular requirement, and perhaps in relation to our neighbouring local authorities. Can you give us a sense of that, please?
I think all councils are working closely, particularly London councils are working closely to make sure that we're all learning from each other. You know, so if there's some shared good practice, shared design, shared ways of, so that goes through the London directors team. And there's a fire safety and building safety team. Generally, I think all councils are working with the same objective. Some councils have got bigger problems with bigger numbers than we've got in our high-rise portfolio. Quite thankfully for us as officers, you know. But yeah, we are all learning, and everyone is picking up on these issues, and these issues are law now, so everyone needs to comply. When the inspectors are come a calling, they will want to see these documents. They will want to see how we're progressing and how we're keeping our residents informed of everything we're doing and trying to do. So this is all about evidencing and giving our residents the safest possible properties to live in, with confirmation that we've taken all reasonable and all good practice steps to ensure that their buildings are safe. So that's our aim, and this is ever evolving. There's other blocks I mean, my personal belief is I think the scope of the Act will extend to all buildings, no matter of height. So there'll be every building will have to have the measures applied, you know.
Just to add to that, Councillor Cawthorne, yes, our statutory obligations are key, and we're very satisfied about our levels of compliance. But you're right, there's a moving target all the time. We are constantly learning. We have a fire safety board that's established, up and running. It's got key officers a part of that. We look at what other authorities are doing, what other good practices out there, certainly as well. And unfortunately, we do get the odd fire. Without a doubt, despite all of our hard work, we do get fires in the managed stock, and it's about what we can learn from that as well. Fortunately, no tragedies or deaths or anything like that in recent years, but nonetheless, fires do occur. So that brings us back to education as well as enforcement and the messages that we push out as part of our day-to-day work. So a lot of work's gone into the tower blocks in making sure people are fire safe and fire aware. But just to be clear, that's about 640 units out of 13,000. So we've got a bigger piece of work to do in terms of making sure all of our residents are fire safe and fire aware.
Thank you.
Councillor Gaylor.
Thank you, Chair. I also have a couple of questions. The first one regards the system that it's called, not sure how to pronounce it, OCELLA, building control. This was due to be updated in February. So has this update been already accomplished? The second...
Sorry, Councillor, what area are you referring to? Sorry.
So the OCELL, building control systems, the software that the council is using.
What page is that? What page is that? Sorry. Page 7.
That showed not sure it is, but it was on I can't find the page now. I made notes that it was due
Page 3.
to be updated in February.
Page 3.
Page 3. Sorry, I do apologise, Councillor. As I mentioned earlier, this document is in 4 sections. Section 1 is our planning and building control actions. This was updated by our Director of Planning in early Feb. And that's the latest position. What I can say is I can give you an update if at a later date. As I say, myself and Rod are overseeing a 4-stranded approach to the building safety. We're maintenance, if you like, maintenance and improvement is me.
Yeah, it's the occupation phase. That's really the once a building's been constructed or converted and then handed over for occupation, our real focus is occupied buildings, whereas obviously planning and building control are at a far earlier stage of the process.
Yeah, but I will pick up on that point to see if there's something that's not being updated. As I say, is it the LCC 1 page 4? Yeah. I'll ask Julia for an update, and I'll send the minutes round for send an update by the minutes. Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you. Other question relates to page 12, point 935. I'm not sure if it will be the consultation. It relates to the implied terms, new responsibilities of tenants and leaseholders. So it implies that there will be charges, additional charges. Would they apply to tenants as well, or just the leaseholders of those properties? They are safety related.
Yeah. So the legislation's been enacted, and like a lot of legislation, what follows on afterwards is regulation, which adds a bit more detail and meat to the bones. At this moment in time, all of our high-rise blocks contain both leaseholders, long leaseholders, generally purchased through the right to buy or subsequently, and tenants. In terms of both categories of tenure, if you like, the council's able to pass on its reasonable costs. What the Building Safety Act has enabled councils to do, or landlords to do, but we're just waiting for the detail, is to pass on those additional safety-related costs associated with managing higher risk buildings. That will also be capped, just to make sure there's no abuses, but that detail from government is yet to come through. But certainly the intention under the Act is that landlords of higher risk buildings will be able to pass on their reasonable costs associated with these higher levels of maintenance and management to ensure safety.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just final question. It's a quick one. It's regards the safety packs which were delivered to the residents. They were stuff tailored literature information. Would they be any different to those who have mobility issues, vulnerable people?
We've recently finished a considerable programme of hand delivering and having structured conversations with all of our residents across the high-rise portfolio, essentially a pack of 3. So within that we've got the tailored fire safety information pack. When I mean tailored, I do genuinely mean tailored to that individual property on that individual floor within that individual building. Yeah. Also a copy of a summary of the housing management offer that we've developed, and that's essentially, it sets out the council's approach to managing these high risk buildings. It's a more intensive approach to management. Essentially we've got 2 officers dedicated to the management of those 640 odd flats, so 320 odd, whereas the general levels of property to officer ratio across the rest of the general stock can be anything up to 1 to 1,000, 1 to 1,200. So you can see that more intensive approach to management. And the third document in terms of those hand delivery packs was our engagement strategy for all residents within the higher risk buildings. It's a statutory requirement to have a statutory engagement plan, and that really sets out how the council will engage with residents in our higher risk buildings and how they can be involved in safety related matters, escalate concerns, etc. So picking up on some of those worries that came out of the Grenfell inquiry.
Councillor Davis, come back to you. Take both your questions and I'll take Councillor Call.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll go through it quickly. Dry risers, are they in every tower block that we have?
Yes.
Are they serviced by us, or are they serviced by the London Fire Brigade?
No, they're serviced by us. They're on a 6-monthly check.
Yeah.
And also, if there's any defects, because unfortunately sometimes people steal the brass tops on them, that's picked up by either. I've got an inspector who checks, who's walking high-rise buildings most weeks, and also Rod's team. Any issues we get are reported, and they go straight to the term contractor who tests and repairs.
Yep. So I'm going to ask another question on that. The AOVs, are they in all blocks as well?
Yes. AOVs, automatic air vents. They're a requirement on the high rise to disperse or remove smoke. Yeah. And also there's a requirement if any of those buildings now, or any of those elements, key fire safety elements in a building, are offline for any reason, we must notify the local fire service so they're aware. Okay. Just in case they're expecting the AOVs to be operating and they've failed, then they're going to be walking into a lot of smoke and all sorts of other issues.
So how does the AOV? How do you know if they're offline? Is that just manually, or are they computerised?
Yeah, no, they're not computerised. They're older technology, which we are as we upgrade, we will bring them up to new technology. But they activate on smoke, and it's basically they fall open. Right. On every floor, and it's natural ventilation of the space.
I've got 1.5 questions, Chairman, because it's very quick. So I see in there that we've got a policy of no e-scooter charging, mobility scooter charging within our stairwells. How do we manage that? Because I would be a bit concerned if a person who needed a mobility scooter had to take it into their property. Surely that would be a bigger fire risk having a mobility scooter within a narrow corridor in the house than in the stairwell.
We'll probably take this one together if we can. First of all, it is not ideal to have to rely on a mobility scooter and be in a high-rise building. That's the first thing. So as part of our more intensive approach to management, we have identified what we call Category 1 individuals, and all those Category 1 individuals are flagged within the premises information box, which is available to the London Fire Brigade in the event of a call out to a building. So they know exactly where in any particular building and on what floor, and the reasons behind it if anybody can't self-evacuate. In response to those individuals, the council as a landlord is required to have a personal emergency evacuation plan in place for those individuals. We have that in place for all of our Category 1 tenants. However, our approach, because our stock number is relatively small, our approach is actually to prioritise those individuals for a move, to relocate them to suitable alternative accommodation. At this moment in time, just in case the question was asked, we have 47 Category 1 individuals across those 640 dwellings. 10 of those have already been prioritised for a move, and we've got another 6 underway. So that probably isn't an approach that Southwark, for example, could do, given their huge numbers, but in Hillingdon it's a sensible approach, not to try and manage the risk, but to remove the risk.
Okay. And half a question is the premises boxes. How are they checked? Because I've heard rumours talking to my SNT officers that they're being misused, people storing stuff in there which maybe they shouldn't do to hide, etc.
Well, they're under. They meet all the requirements of the legislation for the boxes, information boxes. They're under set keys, so limited access to keys. They're controlled. The fire service have access via a master key facility, and our officers have keys. They're specifically designed to to prevent misuse. I've not heard of anyone getting into those at the present time.
So these aren't the same as buying drop keys off of Amazon or anything like that, no?
These are controlled keys. You literally have to sign your life away to obtain one of these keys. We know exactly who's got those keys, and we do regularly check those boxes ourselves.
Brilliant. And if there are incidences where they're being used for storing whatever, please point them in mine or Rod's directions, as I say, because we can track key allocation, and if it's been compromised, we can take the necessary steps to resolve.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chair. I have clear 3 questions, if I may. When this came out, I spoke to a few residents that I know who live in tower blocks about the road safety thing, fire safety thing in their blocks. One resident said that during rains, when their electrics flood, their smoke alarms, smoke detectors stop working, and it takes a while for it to dry and it to work again. So what is the scenario, fire safety scenario on that? And the next I wanted to check was, those are the blocks where main doors are often vandalized. So how do we keep check on the fire safety aspect of those vandalized doors? Because it's quite often they say that they are vandalized. And the next one is, all the hard work that you've put in, it's really reassuring. But if you had your way, or if you wanted something for the council to do to help you out, or to do something that you would change, what would that be? Any challenges? Thank you.
What a challenge. I'd love to pick up on the earlier point that all the 7 families who haven't had the sprinklers fitted, please have them, and then we can that helps if we've got the whole complete coverage. With regards to the sprinklers, the smoke and heat detectors being affected by water leaks, I've not heard of that one. It may well be that if we do get water leaks coming through from floods above other properties, and these are quite old buildings, so water does percolate through, and if they are affected by water, then it's just a call to the repair service, and if it's a problem and they're not working as they should, then they're replaced, and that should be a straightforward just a replacement cycle. Most of the high-rise blocks now have, with the exception of one, from what I can recall, Melbourne House has got problems with the roof, and we're replacing the roof this year and doing a number of other externals. That's been an ongoing issue for us. A lot of our other blocks, particularly the Free Avondale blocks, we have had issues there. We have put new roofs on them a few years ago, but we are experiencing some difficulties with the pipe work. Those buildings are due for demolition, but some of the pipe work is 60 or 70 years old. So when we do get leaks, that's normally the cause. It's not a roof leak, it's normally a flood from a failed pipe into a service area, then gets into the water, finds its way quite quickly around a building. But we are, as they are appearing, we're still addressing those issues. But in answer to your question, they can be reported, and we'll replace it and deal with a leak as well, whether it's from above or within the property. Anything I'd like to do? I'm quite proud of what we've done, really, with regards to, as a borough, and the measures we've taken on fire safety. I believe we're still leading edge. There's some things we've got to do, but whenever I've asked, or Rod's asked for an issue, we've always been supported. The council was one of the only councils that said straight away replace all our doors and undertake what was necessary immediately after Grenfell, while a lot of other councils were still talking about it. We got on and done it. And we are rolling that good practice, all these good practice measures, we are rolling it out to the rest of our stock. So everything we're learning and improving, we're putting into other properties to maximise safety, minimise risk of our residents. And as Rod said, where some of our residents are potentially at risk, we're actively trying to move them into safer accommodation. And picking up on one of the points earlier, we've got some of these other risks that are starting to appear, and the fire service has issued warnings around e-scooters that are causing, when they're overcharged, the batteries can't take the overcharge and they explode. Again, if they're in a flat, the sprinklers will activate if it's in there, and a fire is contained within the property, within the high quality fire door, so it's contained in there for half hour, enabling the fire service to attend. And we're also trying to put in, with our press and publicity now, some further advice on the website to say, don't buy them, please don't buy them. We've also got our pram sheds in the bottom of our blocks are also covered by our sprinkler systems. So ideally, and they're open to the environment, and they're contained in a concrete area. So if there's a fire, it can be used in there. Unfortunately, sometimes they get attacked and things get stolen, unfortunately. But generally, I'm quite pleased with what we're doing. There's always areas for improvement. That's why we come to these sessions to be challenged a bit.
The same is true for the doors as well.
The fire doors. If the fire doors are damaged, tenants can report it. Before they report it, in the main, we're picking up on via our tenancy management or my team, the inspections, as I say, to try and get costs down and make sure we've got a controllable and effective service. My repairs service, which is in-house, we've got a team of about three carpenters, skilled carpenters, who are already accredited with TRADA to undertake the repairs to fire doors that are certified. So when I think Liam did send me the documents, but we've got when we have to do a repair, we recertify that door, and that is regularly checked by TRADA inspectors. So generally we're I don't want to jinx it, but we're in a bit of a good place at the minute.
Thank you. If I could very quickly just add to some of Gary's comments there. Clearly, yes, we do get vandalism in our blocks, there's no ifs or buts about it, but what I'd like to project to committee is the amount of resource that goes into these blocks in terms of eyes. You know, there are lots of staff resources across Gary's area and my area that regularly, if not daily, in the context of our caretaking service, are inspecting those common areas. And they're all well briefed in terms of reporting issues as and when they see them. So, yes, vandalism happens. The reality is we can't prevent that, but it's how quickly we respond to that, and also, excuse me, how quickly we try and break the cycle so it's not a repeat event. Touching on e-scooters, classic example there of the fire triangle I mentioned. It's what people bring into buildings and human behaviour. Just picking up on that one. Thank you very much for your positive comments as well. What we haven't mentioned is relatively recently we brought in an organisation to independently audit the landlord service on a number of compliance areas, and that did touch upon fire safety, and we had some very, very positive feedback there regarding our approach, again supported by that people and property side. Just picking up on the one comment about what we could do differently if the opportunity arose. In terms of our management response to high-rise, that more intensive level of management, one housing officer roughly to 320 odd properties. I'm not saying get down to that level, but certainly something to approach that level across the managed stock. Clearly, fire safety and fire safety risks don't just present in our tower blocks. So a more intensive level of management is probably something I'm sure Gary and I would jointly support if money were no object. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Well, thank you to both of you for attending this evening. You've certainly gone through very detailed report and appendices. Had various questions fired at you, which you've answered in full for us. So thank you for that. And if you can take our thanks back to your teams that work tirelessly to ensure that our tenants and residents are kept safe in the buildings and where they actually live. And you're quite right in what you said, Gary. We were one of the councils that didn't sit back. We said just go and do it, and we got on with it. And down to your teams, we're doing it. So thank you. Take our thanks back to them as well. Thank you very much. So moving on to agenda item 6, which is our review of the council's road safety initiatives and activities around the borough schools. I just want to make a chairman's announcement that we did ask for somebody from APCOA possibly to attend, or some figures from APCOA. Unfortunately, neither have been forthcoming since the last meetings due to various reasons. But we could, at the reformation of the Select Committee in the new financial year, depending who's sitting on it, who's chairing it, etc., we could possibly look at that as a subject on its own. So, apologies we haven't got those figures, but I know we have some figures that have been... Have we circulated them, Anisha, or are the team going to provide those to us? We have some figures that the team are going to share with us about injuries, etc., in Hillingdon. So thank you to the pair of you for attending again this evening. I've got a couple of questions I'm going to fire at you later. But if you just want to share with the committee the figures that I've seen, and then we'll take it from there, because I'm sure we have got other questions to fire at you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so data, obviously it's the Met Police data, so what we have is limited access, but what I pulled out around schools and around this select committee, so the police records show that there were 2 child fatalities in Hillingdon between 2019 and 2023. Neither were of school age, and both were on a weekend and not directly outside of a school. There have been 27 serious collisions in the age bracket of 0 to 15 between 2019 and 2023. 11 out of those 27 collisions were during school rush hours. And from those that give more details on the collisions, because some of them don't, apart from that it was dry or wet or raining, or From those details, it was noted that 3 of the pedestrians did not look before stepping out into the road, and 2 were due to chasing balls into the road. Only 1 serious injury was reported on a 20-mile-per-hour zone road outside of a school, all others were on 30 or 40-mile-per-hour roads.
Anisha will circulate these figures as well after the meeting. One of my questions to you was about 20 mile an hour outside schools, and it's hit that, you know, there's 1 serious on a 20 mile an hour. All the rest are in 30 to 40. I'm sure we've seen all the adverts. We know, I think the whole of Wales at the moment is 20 mile an hour. They just done a blanket 20 mile an hour. The whole of Ealing, I think, is near enough 20 mile an hour. But I just want to touch on that, the benefit of 20 mile an hour outside schools. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to support putting in raised tables outside all these schools or outside all these areas, because that would be impossible to start with through funding. But the simple sign that says 20 mile an hour just in like that stretch. The schools we've got these outside, do they benefit from it, and do people actually take notice if there is no raised table? Because I know Uxbridge High have got them, but they've got the raised crossing, and they've got raised tables. But there are other schools where they've just got signs. So what benefits as a team have you seen where these actually exist at the moment?
So first probably answer to that is we're actually in the process of going through every single school in the borough to highlight what each school has outside of their school. So do they have a school crossing patrol? Do they have zebra crossing? On their zebra crossing, have they got Z-brights? Have they got Belisha beacons, illuminate poles? Do they own a 20 mile per hour zone? So we're actually working, that's a document that we're working on. So later on down the line, I'll probably be able to give you a lot more information on maybe trends that we can see if we are working. But I think perception is a massive thing. So or not even perception, when you're driving down a 30 mile per hour road, most people go, we can go a little bit above 30. Well, we don't, but some people do. So then you go into a 20 mile per hour zone, they're then not going 30. They might be doing 25 or 27, but they're not going 30. So then the risk goes down anyway. Like you said, there's no funding available to raise tables outside every school. Not every school could have it because of where they're located, but a sign on its own with the work alongside what we do, i.e. education, training and publicity, and getting that message out there hand in hand we think works. And I think that's something that we're going to look at, and I know the Cabinet member is in support of 20 mile per hour zone outside of schools. So we've recently just done our 2 Dragon's Den events with the YTA and JTAs, the last one being last week. And it was raised there as well. So we've had a number of the schools that were at that event raising questions about 20 mile per hour zone, and it was supported by the Cabinet member. So it's definitely something we're going to be looking into further.
I'm glad you said that, because I had actually written a recommendation around it based on what you said. So that'll be going in our report. 2 councillors indicated, Councillor Cawthorne and Councillor Davies.
Thank you very much. Actually, this is a slight variation on your question, Chairman, relating to 20 mile per hour zones and correlation between that and whether there's any benefit. My question is really around the fact that we have some wonderful schools who do some incredible work. I was subbing last autumn. We had a couple of schools here, and I was really struck by the strength and level of engagement and the benefits we got from it. But it's equally fair to say there are some schools who, frankly, just see their responsibilities end at the front gate, quite frankly. And I just wonder, again, you probably can answer this if you're looking at figures, but I just wonder if there is any correlation between accident data and perhaps schools that work well with us and others that don't. Because one suggestion I was going to float, and I'm a mere sub at this meeting, but it's just an idea. But I just wonder whether there's anything perhaps in the Ofsted framework that now exists that does require community engagement, meaningful community engagement and participation, that we could perhaps harness as part of this piece of work to, act as, I don't like the word stick, but perhaps it's needed in some instances to really get some of these schools on board. So I'm just floating it as a thought, really, and interested in your comments.
Yeah. I'm sure Danielle will help me remember what this lead is called. Yeah. I'm sure you're thinking what I'm thinking. So in 2020, do you want to? I'm going to pass over to Danielle because she probably.
Hello. Yes. So we know that by 2025, all schools, and I don't know how well known this is, will need to have a climate change sustainability lead, which will be within every school, who will be responsible for talking about things like their emissions and having data available, where travel and sustainability in terms of active travel and things will fall very closely underneath. So we're hoping that this will be the thing that we will start to see an influx in engagement from schools, because it is now a requirement rather than a please, because we send lots of emails about all the great things that we're doing, and we do have lots of schools, as you said, that will take that up, and we have lots of schools that don't, and we can't really answer the reason as to why. From my experience, the best STARS leads, the school travel plan leads, are the ones that are just very enthusiastic about it, that want to see change, that want to see to inspire the children. Our best STP leads are those people. We've had schools where sometimes it crosses their desk and it's kind of a tick box exercise, and they don't last very long engaging with us. So there's lots of variables at play. It's hard to kind of put it all into one box, but so sorry. So that in terms of having that lead, and a requirement, hopefully by this time next year we will see a lot more of engagement from schools.
Yeah, we have already told schools about this as well, so they're aware. Well, definitely the ones that are working with us are aware that they're kind of already ahead of the game, and we've said that by you doing all of this, you're already on the way to having that, and that's another way that we can try and engage further. So once we get some more information on that lead, it'll be easier.
Yeah, we can definitely share that with you as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Chairman. Mine's on the closures around schools. So there was a project, I believe, a number of years ago, where you were shutting the roads outside schools, or have I dreamt that? I'm not sure. So you were there was a trial at Belmore School, I believe. We were shutting the roads for stopping parents dropping children off. What was the outcome of that? I haven't seen anything.
I think you're talking about School Street it's the Highfield Primary School. Yeah, so we've got one in Highfield Primary School. It is a dead-end road. There's no throughway. I don't know if you know the road well, but you literally go down it, and then there's a school, and then there's a footpath that goes down to Pole Hill.
Yeah.
So it was our first one, and it was on a trial basis, and it's worked. It's still in there now. I haven't got any other information on the enforcement side of things to give you, but we can try and get that for you.
So projects like that, so we've seen it's worked on a dead-end road. Is there plans to roll that out on primary schools with dual entrances or dual exits? Is that in the pipework?
It's something that's always kind of raised and we're looking at, but we haven't had any further School Streets go in just yet.
Is that because schools haven't approached, or we haven't got to that stage yet?
We're just not at that stage yet.
Okay. And I've got one very quick one, Chairman. The schools that are engaging, are they more primary schools or more secondary schools?
Primary schools.
Thank you.
I have written down, I was prepared for this question, secondary schools are just so much harder to engage with for a number of different reasons, including things like they're just larger. They've got, obviously, their exams are of priority to them. We understand that. In all schools, we've got such a good amount of schools that do work so closely with us, and we're kind of like, well, if they can do it, why can't the other schools do it? And some of these schools, like Hayes, is Green at Hayes Park now? Grange Park, she was at Hayes Park. That was like a 5 elementary school. She managed to do it, and because she's enthusiastic about it. We do have like 5 YTA schools that are actively engaged, and they work brilliantly. But again, it's all down to their leads. They've got really enthusiastic leads. Once you find that person in the school and you keep hold of them and they run with it, it can just run so smoothly and they can just get things in. But if you don't have that lead, it's really, really difficult, because again, they look at it as either it's a tick box exercise, or you go in, like it happens all the time, you go in and they seem really keen and you're talking to them and you're like, this is what we can do, this is how we can help you, we could do X, Y, Z, and they give you all the feedback that you need as an officer to go, right, this is going to go ahead, and then disappear off the face of the earth, can't get through to them again, and then we find out they've left and the whole process starts again. Okay. So, yeah, sorry, in short, primary schools.
No, that's
definitely.
Fine. Thank you.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering if there was a possibility, or if there already is a helpline kind of a thing, which is school traffic related helpline with the council, like if there are roadworks or something, because sometimes there are roadworks that schools are not aware of, and then come morning everything is all out of order. So is there some kind of thing that you would recommend is possible or we have in place which can help schools?
I think anything that's planned from certain teams in the council, obviously there's some officers that I know that they can come to email me and go, I know this outside of school, I know that Lisa will be able to get in touch with that school. So we do. If it's unplanned, obviously it's an emergency work, then there have been instances where, like, a school crossing patrol, for example, has called me in the morning and gone, my road's closed, or like there's a flood or whatever. So in those sorts of instances, I mean, you can't obviously plan for it, but as soon as I hear anything, I will contact that team directly and say, what's going on, what are the plans, how long are you going to be there, and then I'll relay that back to the school. But there is quite a good communication already. It's obviously more difficult if we haven't got a contact with the school. We then have to go straight through the office. If the office don't then pass our message on, I'm not really sure what else we could do, but we always pass messages on that we get.
Yeah, Lisa's quite right, from experience, holding a portfolio for a number of years. We're okay if we've planned it, or we know that statutory services have planned it in advance, and they will let the schools know, or highways will let the schools know. But Lisa's hit the nail on the head. At the moment across the borough, we have a lot of emergency works that have just cropped up through gas leaks, water leaks. The electricity board has suddenly found that their pipes have gone and the cables are gone, they've got to go in as well. So those are the ones that no one can foresee. But they do work with the schools. I can vouch for that from previous experience. I've got a couple more to fire at you. You mentioned the school crossing patrol officers. Roughly how many are we short? And I know how difficult they are to recruit. Are we still having the similar sort of problems in recruiting such people?
Sorry, we currently have 11. We had 27 when I took over as manager, so it's been quite a dramatic drop. One leaving just last week. I think before we mentioned just the natural age of the school crossing patrol officers that we have, the reasons that they kind of became a school crossing patrol because their children there and they just never left. The ones that are still there are just still brilliant as ever, and they apologise to me when they have to go to a hospital appointment or they have to take time off sick because they don't want to let the children down. So they're so dedicated, just cannot recruit to it anymore. Nobody, and understandably in terms of the abuse that they get, which is, it still baffles me why someone could abuse someone who's doing something like that, but they do. That people just don't want the job, and I think that hours are really awkward now for someone who was majority of them that started were stay-at-home mums that had a little morning job when they were dropping the kids off, pick them up, easy peasy. It just doesn't, it's not the way of life anymore. So yeah, as they're going, we did a review. I hate saying the word pre-COVID, but I think it was pre-COVID. A review of all the crossing sites and where could we put in extra safety measures should any of them leave and we can't recruit to them. So we're kind of ahead of it. We knew that we were having recruitment issues, and we've got a programme of works that are going on outside of schools, and I've got the numbers here as well. There have been 9 this year that have happened, and we've got funding agreed for the next financial year for another 14, and those are all based around where we've lost school crossing patrols, their priority. So where we've lost that, we will look at that school next and go, what needs to be done, how can we improve it, how can we make it safer for the children to cross if nobody is there.
It always has been an issue, and I know that and appreciate that, but there's still the niche in the market that goes back I don't know how many years, when we were the first council to trial the actual lollipop with a camera in, and the police said that they couldn't use it as evidence for some bizarre well, not the police, the CPS said they couldn't use it as evidence, although we had clear drive-throughs, we had abuse on these cameras and everything, and they wouldn't take it. So someone needs to wake up and smell the coffee. The other thing I want to touch on is when we had Guru Nanak in here, brilliant presentation, but we all sat here when they said our cycle lane's on one side of the road, and we all sat here thinking, well, hold on, so when you come back you're cycling on the wrong side of the road. Why was it only put on one side of the road? Is there an explanation? I expect there is, and hopefully you're going to give it.
I expect there is, but I'm not going to be the one to be able to give it to you, I'm afraid, because I don't know, but I can find out and come back to you at a later date.
Yeah, can you find out and come back? Because it does seem an anomaly that we've put this in to get them safely to school, but we've done nothing on the other side of the road to get them safely back out of school.
Yeah.
And even they were quite baffled by it, and they said that they would rather have one on each side of the road, which, well, anybody would if you're cycling.
It makes sense. I'm sure there's a valid reason.
Yeah, if you
I
can,
will find out
and
for
put
you.
it back through Anisha, and
yeah.
that could be something that is a recommendation that, you know, we look at it again. Do we have any, Councillor Cole?
With regards to that, I put an ME, and I was told that first, the cycle lane is on the walking pavement. It's not on the road. It's on the pavement for some reason. And then I'm told that it goes into the cycle circuit. So they might eventually plan to put another one. They said the road is not wide enough, but they might consider it after our meeting. I did check with them why that was the case. So for now, it's going into the cycle circuit, but not coming out of it. And the one that is available is actually on the pavement and not on the road.
It's shared.
Yeah.
But you find out why they've done it, please. Any other? Oh, Councillor Cawthorne. I've got Councillor Cawthorne. Councillor Money, I'll bring you in after.
Quick one from me. This is topical, as you'll probably be aware from my MEs, but is it our general practice to work with schools and perhaps groups of parents who take a view about the need for some measure or other to improve the safer route to school, i.e. a crossing, just name one example. Is it something that's within your remit to have those sort of conversations? Because there's sometimes a gap between expectations and what we can deliver, and there may be technical reasons for that. So I suppose when we talk about intelligent intervention when it comes to petitions, is that something you're able to support with, or is that outside your remit?
We're not engineers like in our small team, but we work closely with them. So every engineering measure that goes in a school we are aware of, and we try and understand and learn as much as we can from that. We'll always say to a school, anytime, if they want a meeting just with the head or the STP lead, the children, if they want to get a working group together with parents, we will always be happy to oblige and explain anything that we can to them. We can work with them to explain why or why not a decision's been made. Usually engineering decisions, especially when it comes to crossings, is because of the road layout. The road might not be wide enough, or it's going to affect driveway parking, or other than it has to go through consultation. And I think it's just someone explaining that to a resident. I think if you don't work in a council and you go, well, why can't you just go and paint a yellow line on the road? Well, you just can't. We know that, but it's just trying to explain that to residents and to schools. Like, it's not, I say nothing's a quick fix. Some things are a quick fix, but things like that are not, and we have to take our time, and there are processes that we have to go through. But I think when we explain it to schools and we go in, and it's just very clear and basic understanding of what's going to come next, what are the next steps, they kind of they come on board a lot easier, I think. So we're always willing to talk to anyone and give them as much knowledge as we know, but when it comes to actual engineering, we'll work with the team, and they'll kind of, we try not to be middlemen. So if it's something that's going to be a lot long term, then the engineers will just speak directly to the school and CC us in. But otherwise, we are there just to kind of.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add a note to that as well. And I think what we try to do in our team is to stress to the schools that engineering measures are great. They have a purpose, but they can't be the sole focus, because, you know, if somebody's going to park across a double yellow line, they know they shouldn't, but they'll do it anyway. And that's the same with a 20 mile per hour zone. You stick a sign up, that's great, but they'll still go over that 20 mile per hour sign. The bit that's missing is the behavioural change part, which is where we come in, which is where we really want to try and get these schools to, the children to get enthusiastic about making sure this is important to their parents, because we find out as well when we're speaking to schools that parents are sometimes not the problem. They are fantastic and they have their place, but sometimes they are the ones we want to really reach in terms of making sure they're abiding by certain things. And so engineering measures have to go with the softer measures, and that's what we try to stress to the school as well.
Councillor Money.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of points. I think you guys met with William Byrd Primary School a couple of weeks ago, and they were very, very happy because there was an incident in December. And one of the questions I raised at the last committee was that around William Byrd Primary School, where there's been a couple of incidents over the past couple of years, we did have a traffic management system approved and agreed through the petition process, and we're still waiting for it to go through, and the response we get is budgetary reasons, and it's in the process. We're no closer. Were there any other schools with traffic management systems that have been agreed that have not gone through for whatever reason?
I don't know that. I haven't got a date. I did ask if we had a date yet. I don't have a date, but they're with highways now.
But it is imminent. It's
imminent, yeah.
Cool.
As soon as I get a date, I will let you know. But yeah, I asked today if there's been a date given, but there wasn't. But it is with highways.
Thank you. And if we can also have it around the other schools, I think it would be interesting to know.
I haven't got my microphone on, sorry. The list that I was talking about earlier, where we've got another 14 in the financial year around schools, so 9 have been done, and 14 are still due to happen in the next financial year. They are all around schools. They are purely school engineering ones. So Sophie Wilmot looks after those, and I can keep you updated on how they're going. And
you're happy to share that list with us through the chair?
I think so. That's fine.
And my other question was schools that have cameras outside. Now, from my understanding, every school has a school camera outside. Do we have the number of FPNs issued through that system, or is that also through APCOA? Because it's quite disappointing that APCOA haven't come through, with them being our primary contractor.
I think that detail comes through APCOA and via, I think, is fed through cabinet reasons or cabinet route. But I can check with the cabinet member offline and see what he says.
Thank you. And thanks for the great work. I met with the William Byrd Primary School head teacher a couple of days ago, about a week ago, and she was very happy and impressed with you guys. Yes.
Any other questions? I think Lisa could ask us a question.
I just wanted to highlight when you were talking about the 20 mile per hour zone, your first question, the one incident that was on a 20 mile per hour zone school, it wasn't actually a speeding issue. It was a 3-5 point turn and a rolling down a hill incident that caused serious injury. So it wasn't actually due to anything to do with the speed. So I just wanted to highlight that.
I'd like to again express the committee's thanks to you as a team. I know from experience, and I'm sure that the councillors have learnt a lot from you and how much you work with these schools, and that also came across when we have had the schools in, how much they value your team and the input you give to them. So on behalf of this committee and the council, I'd like to thank your team yet again for what you do, and if you can just let us have those details that Councillor Money asked for, then we can move forward with those. It was the schools, list of the schools, and then of course we will put forward our recommendations to Cabinet. One of them will be the 20 mile an hour based on what you said now, so I've got somebody to blame. No, not really. So thank you to you and your team again, and thanks for attending this evening.
Thank you.
I have some recommendations that I will email to you, because I just wanted to clear up a few points and clarify a few points which the team have this evening. So I will email those through to you, which then can be shared with the rest of the committee. And if committee members have got anything that has come to mind based on what officers have said this evening, if you can also email those through to Anisha, and then at our next meeting we can actually have a look at what recommendations we're going to agree to put into the draft report and then through to Cabinet report. Okay? Thank you. Thank you again to the pair of you. Good to see you. And you're free to leave. Okay, moving swiftly on, because it will be Cabinet Forward Plan. I've been through it. There's not really anything that really was pressing for me. There are quite a few items in here that are, as you can see, Part 2s. And we have to remember that if we do request something that is in Part 2, or we request a copy of a report, it still has to be agreed by the relevant Cabinet member that we can have those details. Is there anything that anybody wishes to comment on or have come forward? Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Chair. Just to reiterate, if it was possible to get the school infrastructure program report before it goes to the Cabinet, or because the deadline is 1st of April. And
what page we're looking at?
It's on page 3 of the forward programs. So it's coming for the Cabinet meeting on 18th of April.
What is it you want? The minor property?
The
sorry.
school infrastructure program report.
Okay. That's down for 1st of April's deadline, so 18th of April, Cabinet member.
Yeah.
Cabinet. Okay, we can make the request. Will that come into our remit? School capital programme?
Yeah,
it does? Yeah, that's fine. But we'd have to put a request to the Cabinet member, and obviously the Cabinet member has to agree that we can see it prior to Cabinet actually agreeing it.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, so we're happy with what's on the forward plan. We then move on to our agenda item 8, which is our work programme. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 8th of April. So we will have the Cabinet Forward Plan as usual. We've then got the... Is that a cycling strategy or the housing forward? Oh no, it's housing. We will also be discussing our road safety report to go to Cabinet. So please, can we over the next week pass any possible recommendations to Anisha, so that she's got time to actually include them in a draft report that we're happy with, and we can put that to Cabinet. Any other comments on the work programme? So our next meeting is scheduled 8th of April, Committee Room 5, 7 p.m. Yes. There is a potential site visit. Do you want to just brief, Anisha?
Thank you, Chair. So at the next meeting there's an update due on the decarbonisation of council buildings. Subject to what the committee thinks, it may be an idea to perhaps do a site visit of council buildings, depending on what members want, or we can try and request an update. But I believe there was an update on council buildings, I think, a few months ago. So I'm not sure whether it would be similar. It's dependent on the committee and whatever you see fit.
Any thoughts, or do you want to take it away, think about it, and email through? And then any potential site visits can be agreed between myself and Councillor Money. Happy with that approach? Yeah. Okay, Councillor Money.
I mean, the only site visit we have asked for a few times was the Jubilee Equestrian Centre. If we could still do that, I think that would be good, just to see an update, progress, especially since we've now got our own in-house contractors or teams working on it.
Yeah, I think that has been agreed that it is a possibility, hasn't it?
That's right, Chair. So we're just agreeing and finalising dates, which we'll put out to members. Obviously, it depends on officer availability and member availability, but we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
So we agreed? We're happy with the work programme? Well, thank you for your attendance. Thank you, Councillor Cawthorne, for substituting this evening. Very much appreciated. And thank you, everybody, for your input. I hereby close this meeting.